when you look at a lot of these Italian banks, right, a lot of people are saying, sure, Brexit was a concern, but actually it's not a concern at all if anything goes under in Italy. Do they need a resolution, and how quickly do they need a resolution?
Well, given the size of the non-performing loan portfolio, this order of 370 billion euros, about 17% of the loan book is non-performing, yes, they do need a solution. I think we need to start talking about the two sets of solutions that could happen. There is state aid intervention, right, and how do the rules of the Eurozone have to be adjusted to facilitate that? And that is a complex part of the discussions of completing monetary union that were always penciled, independent of Brexit, for the second half of this year. It was outlined in the Five Presidents report. But then if you I think, acknowledge that it's very, very difficult to do that without some sort of mutualisation of fiscal policy, political control, then you need to quite realistically have a conversation about whether the Italian banking system, the Italian economy, remains within the Eurozone. And I was quite struck by a speech I went to from ex-Governor of Bank of England, Mervyn King, yesterday, where that was the key issue, is that we haven't, since the start of the Eurozone, had the convergence and integration and the completion of monetary union. No. And the elephant in the room for the European Commission and the ECB, who keep talking about completing monetary union through the guise of fiscal union and political union, is where is the public support for this?
Right. But Simon, so there are two. Yesterday we spoke to a former general manager of Unicredit, and then we spoke to Davide Serra, who's an advisor to Matteo Renzi. And one of the things that they kept on saying, which is why I asked you, do we need a resolution, is that fundamentally nothing's really happened, right? If you look at non-performing roles on an ECB calculated basis, it's 200 billion. You could inject some capital, and they could survive a little bit as long as the EU were a little bit more flexible. Right. Is it really a huge problem, the Italian banks, or is it that the markets have fears that came to the surface because of Brexit?
It depends on whether you think that the current rate of growth, and not over a 12-month horizon, but since the inception of the Eurozone in Italy, has been acceptable. I certainly don't think it's been acceptable. I think and there are many structural reasons for that, but the health of the financial system just adds a further dampening factor on an Italian economy that has gone nowhere. And the problem, of course, is if you diminish the pool through which you can fund productive enterprises, and that effectively is destroying capital, destroying the balance sheets of Italian banks, then you diminish the growth potential going forward. So I don't think you can just sit tight. I think ultimately you get the kind of political spike that we've seen all over Europe, most notably in Brexit, but it'll come elsewhere, if policymakers think that they can just sit on their hands. I agree with your first statement. We must have a resolution here. The question is when is the political interface with the economics and the necessary economics of monetary union going to come together?
But would the Commission not, I mean, the amount, and this is something that the Italians argue, right, the Italian political system, is that the amount that you need to pump in the Italian banks is fairly small compared to the risk that this is. And you could argue that there are similar concerns in certain German banks, right? Maybe not any of the big ones, but certainly the smaller ones. So it would be in everyone's interest to be more flexible on the bail-ins.
Sure, and you look at the chart, the brilliant chart you've got behind you on Deutsche's price to book, right, and then the absolute level is 0.25. That assumes enormous capital destruction in the Eurozone's preeminent economy and the preeminent bank within that. So the solution isn't the problem isn't solely in Italy, it is also in Germany, but it lends itself to a collective decision regarding completion of monetary union. And if it doesn't, then an acknowledgement that there are some economies within the system for whom the single currency does not work as a unifying force, and therefore separation. We must start talking quite credibly in terms of a roadmap for potential separation or fiscal and political mutualisation.